My brain cannot process failure. It will not process failure. Because if I sit there and have to face myself and tell myself, you're a failure, I think that's almost worse than death.
The Mamba Mentality simply means trying to be the best version of yourself. That's what the mentality means. It means every day, you're trying to become better. And it's a constant quest. It's an infinite quest. The passion came from the love for the game. I loved everything about it, like the smell of the ball.
You love the smell of the ball?
Yes, the ball. The smell of like brand new sneakers and like the sound the ball makes when it hits the ground.
Sneakers in the gym.
Sneakers squeaking. Yeah, the ball going through the net. Like all those things I love. And so the passion comes from that, because once you have that love, you just want to be a part of this thing all the time.
You getting up 6 in the morning, man? It's 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
What time do you go to sleep?
I don't need too many hours of sleep, man. I can go off for 3-4 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
3 hours?
Yeah.
Damn, they told you I got sleep apnea, right? Damn, I need about 6-7 hours. What's a normal day like for you, particularly in the off season when you talk about getting up that early? I want to know what time you get up,
right,
and I want to know what you do when you get up.
Right. Well, I normally wake up at about 4:30, and
4:30 in the morning.
4:30 in the morning. 4:30 in the morning, and I get ready to work out. This past summer I couldn't, run like I normally do and do all the shots because of my knee.
Right.
So I'll get up in the morning and do my therapy, do weights, things of that nature. And I do that about 2-3 times a day sometimes. But the key is when you get up that early in the morning, you finish your workout, 12 o'clock, 12:30, whatever. You have the rest of the day to kick it with the fam.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Instead of waking up, middle of the day, you get all of those hours in, then your day's shot.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 11, right? 12, say 12, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions, right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11. Right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4, and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4, right? And so now you do that, and as the years go on, the separation that you have with your competitors and your peers just grows larger and larger and larger and larger and larger, and by year 5 or 6, doesn't matter what kind of work they do in the summer, they're never going to catch up.
I wasn't invited to parties or friendly gatherings on the weekend. So on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go to my rec room with my basketball and basically dribble myself to sleep. I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because during those lonely hours in the rec room, I discovered the hunger, the motivation, and the desire to be the best possible basketball player that I could be.
I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
You're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds? And you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How'd you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top
skinny,
like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm gonna love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. From there, I just went to work. I stayed with it, and I kept practicing. So at 13 years old, I had a kill list. They used to do these rankings. It was Street and Smith basketball rankings. And I was nowhere to be found because I was like 6'4", scrawny, like 160 pounds soaking wet. So I was like 57 on the list. And so I will look at 56, 55, all the way up to number 1, who these players are, what club teams they played for. So when we go on an AAU travel circuit, I got to hunt them down, right? And so that became my mission in high school, is to check off every other person, all those 56 other names, hunt them down and knock them down. At 13 years old, I played the longer game, because my game wasn't about being better than you at 13. It was to be better than you when, you know, the chips are really on the line. So when we played at 13, I would size you up and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else, right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it, right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses. I wouldn't play to my strengths. I played to my weaknesses. Because when you're playing summer basketball, there's so many games. So there's not a lot of skill work being done. So when are you going to get better, right? When you're playing in competition situations, you're only playing to your strengths. Why? Because you want to win, right? So what I would do, I was work on the things during those games that I was weak at. Left hand, pull-up jump shot, post game, right? So I have a strategy. And so then fast forward to when I'm 17, and my game is completely well-rounded, and that player at 13 that I saw at 13 is still doing the same shit at 17, now you got a problem.
That's right.
I don't think I've ever said this before. This kind of makes me seem very psychotic, but whatever. I used to play the Halloween theme song over and over and over in my headphones.
Pre-game. Seriously.
Seriously. And it was important that it was Michael Myers, because the mask itself was void of emotion. Void of emotion. It has
That's
nothing to do with
psychotic at the
pressure, it has
highest
nothing
level.
to do with hype, has nothing to do with camaraderie. It's stone cold killer. And I would listen to that song over and over and over to get. That's when you know you better run, because
That's what a lot of people did.
yeah,
it's like coming out. You know,
it's gonna be a tough night.
Story.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? There's 3 people in my lifetime that I admired on how hard they worked. Jerry Rice,
Yeah.
Walter Payton, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And his was legendary, you know, Kobe, as far as he never worked out just once a day. No. You know, like you just said, he would get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Or he said, meet me at a gym at 4 a.m. And he would work out for, 2-3 hours, lifting, because he knew he had to get stronger. You don't have to get bigger. You're a basketball player. Just get stronger, right?
Yeah.
Then he would go eat breakfast, and then he'd come back, and he'd make 500 shots. So he'd be there another 2 hours. Then he'd get ready for practice, right? He'd go through a 2.5 hour, 3 hour practice like it's nothing. Then he'd go have lunch and blah, blah, blah. He'd chill out for another hour. Then he'd come back at night and work out again. And it was crazy to me because he had his method of it was scientific, because he was like, B, if I work out 3 times a day, and all these other guys who are so-called great players work out just for practice, they just work out that 1 time a day. He said, over a 5-year period, they can't catch me. I've worked out that much. I've worked on my body, I've worked on my footwork, I've worked on my shot. So 5-10 years from now, they can't catch me. They're that far behind.
There's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, rest at the end, not in the middle. And that's something I always live by. I'm not gonna rest, I'm gonna keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
Those times when you get up early and you work hard, those times when you stay up late and you work hard, those times when you don't feel like working, you're too tired, you don't want to push yourself, but you do it anyway. That is actually the dream. That's the dream. It's not the destination, it's the journey. If you guys can understand that, then what you'll see happen is that you won't accomplish your dreams. Your dreams won't come true. Something greater will.
Basketball for me was the most important thing. So everything I saw, whether it was TV shows, whether it was books I read, people I talked to, everything was done to try to learn how to become a better basketball player. Everything. And so when you have that point of view, then literally the world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
The world becomes your library to help you improve your craft, better your craft.
Yes, indeed.
So because you know what you want, the world's giving you exactly the information you need to become better at it.
Because you know what you're looking for.
You're playing against the Golden State Warriors. Score is 107-109. You guys are close to getting into the playoffs. You know exactly what happens in the game. You go up, you're about to take your shot, and then all of a sudden, boom, Achilles happens, right? How the hell do you tolerate that kind of pain?
You know, I use this. I tell this example, and I think this is the best way to explain it. You know, you have a hamstring injury, you pull your hamstring really, really badly. You can barely walk, right? Let alone play anything. Doctor tells you go home, sit up on the couch, rest your hammy, stay off of it, don't get up, no sudden movements. You're at home, all of a sudden a fire breaks out in the home. Your kids are upstairs, you know, wife is wherever she may be, you know, it's going down. I'm willing to bet that you're gonna forget about your hamstring, you're gonna sprint upstairs, you're gonna grab your kids, you'll make sure your wife's good, you're getting out of that house, right? Hamstring be damned. You're not gonna feel your hamstring, right? And the reason is because the lives of your family are more important than the injury of your hamstring. And so when the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury. Not at that time.
What have you learned about yourself through these 20 years of being in the NBA?
Wow. What I've learned is to always keep going. Always. You know, there's been times, particularly early in my career, where it just feels like this is the end. But what I've come to find out is that, you know, no matter what happens, the storm eventually ends. And when the storm does end, you want to make sure that you're ready. And so I've really learned to put one foot in front of the other, good, bad, or indifferent, because eventually that storm passes.
I think the greatest fear that we face is ourselves, actually. You know, I think it's not anything that's external or anything that's superficial. I think the greatest fear you face is yourself, because, you know, we all have dreams, and it's very scary sometimes to accept the dream that you have. And it's scarier still to say, okay, I want that. It's scary because you're afraid that if you put your heart and soul into it and you fail, then how are you going to feel about yourself, right? So being fearless means putting yourself out there and going for it. No matter what, go for it. Not for anybody else, but for yourself.
Doubt is such a strange thing. I mean, it's, you know, there'll be times where you succeed and there are times that you fail. So wasting your time doubting whether you're going to be successful or not is pointless. It is. I mean, you just put one foot in front of the other, you control what you can't control, and then you see what the outcome is, right? If you win, great, you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey over again. If you lose, it sucks, but you're going to have to wake up the next day and do the journey all over again anyway.
When I was playing and, you know, teammates would say, oh, Kobe's not out on the road. What is he doing? You see me on the plane, he's reading. What is he reading? He's writing. What is he writing? Mm-hmm. I'm practicing. Mm-hmm. I'm writing. I'm practicing. I'm understanding how to tell stories. I'm reading Joseph Campbell and how to create arcs, compelling arcs and plots. I'm reading that stuff. So this is going back 15 years, right? So I don't just retire, write Dear Basketball, and luck into winning an Oscar. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That stuff comes from hard work and from studying for 15 years how to write and how to organize structure, right? And you can't do that without having a serious love or commitment to the craft.
I always dreamed as a kid that, you know, it was possible to score 80 or 90 or 100. Lay down, I'd imagine playing for the Lakers, and I would imagine what the uniforms look like, I would imagine where we'd be playing, and, you know, the smell of the arena and all sort of stuff. And I would see myself, you know, getting hot, you know. So you just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, and before I go to sleep, I'm like at 120 points, you know. And so when you grow up, downloading that into your brain over and over and over, and then, you know, that summer, I made 1,000 shots a day, and they weren't just shots. It were shots that you saw in that game. They were specific shots. So when you download that into your system and you go out in the court and you're just executing things that you've done thousands of times before, and you have that dream, then that becomes possible.
We're not on this stage just because of talent or ability. We're up here because of 4 a.m. We're up here because of 2-a-days or 5-a-days.
We're up here because we had a dream and let nothing stand in our way. If anything tried to bring us down, we used it to make us stronger. We were never satisfied, never finished, will never be retired. My high school English teacher, Mr. Fisk, I actually paid attention one time in class, and he said, he had this beautiful quote, and it read, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And I took that to heart. I believe there's time for resting at the end, but for me, that time is not now. My next dream is to be honored one day for inspiring the next generation of athletes to have a dream, sacrifice for it, and never ever rest in the middle.